Good afternoon and aloha. I want to thank everyone for gathering here in the mayor's office at Honolulu, a little bit different setting than our other biweekly press conferences. So wanted to just very quickly run through some statistics. As you know, the report today was very positive for Oahu, just one case for the entire state of Hawaii. And I think everyone is doing an excellent job following all the orders, the stay-at-home orders, the quarantine orders, the mask-wearing requirements, everything in between. And it's showing as a result that we're making a tremendous difference. If you could go to the next slide. So I did want to talk about this. You know, there's been a lot of questions as we talk about reopening our society as to what happens as we go forward. And on Tuesday, we talked about a gradual reopening and the fact that our stay-at-home order will remain in place during these gradual phases or opening up of different categories of businesses. And if there's no order in place, then there's an immediate opening up of everything. If there's an order in place and it moves forward month by month with fewer things in place that are determined non-essential and become essential with modifications, we can protect ourselves from seeing a spiking of this virus, which remains in place until we have a vaccine, and that's going to be a while before that occurs. So I wanted to point out this slide because it's the Spanish flu that impacted our country back in 1918, 1919, during the ending days or ending year of World War I. As you can see, there's a couple of bumps, and they call this the death bumps, because what happened is you saw the initial occurrence of the Spanish flu. People got strict. It brought down the curve, and then they loosened up, and there was a spike, and then it came back down, and then it bumped again. We don't want to live through this in our city and county of Honolulu, and we do not want to have people who come out and start to celebrate their lives like they did before, and then they're forced back in. And that'll be very difficult for all of us to do. Next slide. This one actually shows Spanish flu in Denver. So Denver actually recorded their interventions and what happened, and it was a double-humped curve. So they had the first cases like in September of 1918. They did interventions. It continued to spike, and then because of interventions, it dropped. And then they removed it thinking, hey, the coast is clear. We can come back out again and to celebrate life. And it spiked a second time and even higher, and then it came back down. We want to avoid this. We want to avoid this at all costs. It's extremely important. Next slide. So we want to talk about reopening. And basically, we're using two types of measurements to decide when you reopen. The first one, we call it the environment assessment. Not an environmental assessment, but an environment assessment. And it's based on 4 categories that we've talked about in previous press conferences, including the one on Tuesday and even last week. And the first one is the epidemiology. You know, cases. Is there a steady drop? Is there a flattening of the curve? And as you could see from the slide that we showed earlier, there is definitely a flattening of the curve, and we're seeing a steady decrease and a holding steady in terms of number of cases. The second part of our environment assessment is the healthcare system. You know, how many ICU beds do we have? How many respirators do we have? How many hospital beds do we have? And we want to make sure there's sufficient number of these types of things so that should we see a little bit of a bump, it's not going to endanger the public. The third one is the public health system. That's testing and contact tracing that we've talked a lot about. We're going to talk about again today. And making sure we have facilities available for quarantine. And then the last one is social readiness. You know, that's the physical distancing, the wearing of face masks or face coverings, washing of our hands, doing all the things that we've been doing, and does the public continue to hold steady on this throughout this period? And in some ways, it's a little bit like our weather report. We're going to be looking at this every single day, and we do. I know all the mayors and the governor, we wait to find out what is the number of positives every single day. I know I ask quickly, have you gotten the report yet? When I get the report, I say, how many cases on Oahu? Because I'm concerned about our island. I'm concerned also about the state of Hawaii. And this is going to continue every day during the remaining period of this pandemic until we have a vaccine. How many cases? But then it's also, how are we doing on ICU beds? Because if we start to open up and there's more elective surgeries, some of these ICU beds will fill up with patients who are having surgeries that are not absolutely necessary, but they're coming forward and getting done. And that can impact the number of beds we have. And of course, we got to be careful about that, particularly if you see a little bit of increase in some COVID-19 patients have to go into it. And always making sure we have sufficient facilities for isolation and quarantine if necessary. And how are we doing every day? Are we all wearing masks? We see in the streets, in the cars, and all kinds of places that people are wearing masks. And do we continue to practice that good social distancing? But the other measurement tool, besides the environment assessment, which is kind of our weather report, and one other thing on this, is it's kind of like the weather report. It's pretty accurate going 1, 2, or 3 days out. It gets really hard to predict the weather 7 days out. And so we're looking at this every day, and we kind of know what the next day may look like, but it's hard to predict out too far. And that's why when we talk about opening things up, it's opening things up and taking a breath and watching and looking at the weather report to see what's happening. And if we see sunny days and not storm clouds, we continue to open up more things. But the other factor we look at, if we could have the next slide, is a risk assessment. So one is the weather report, the environment assessment, and the other one is the risk assessment. And these are activities that are based on the level of contact and the ability to modify those conditions. So a risk assessment runs the gamut from very low risk to very high risk. And it doesn't mean that some of these things that are at the higher end of the risk assessment doesn't mean they couldn't open up sooner as long as they do the modifications necessary to mitigate those risks. So this is not A to B to C to D to E to F to the end of the alphabet. Things could move around depending on the type of modifications that are done. And a lot of times it's about physical ability to modify, and there's sometimes a cost factor in there. So, when you talk about things like low risk, parks and botanical gardens are very low risk. And we are opening our parks this coming Saturday at 5 in the morning for exercise only, because there's very low risk to go in the parks and just exercise. And on May 1st, we're opening up our botanical gardens to, casual walking through the botanical gardens. And both of these are low risk, but they're also based on decisions and recommendations made by our medical advisory group that says people need to get out of their homes. They need to be able to exercise in open spaces where the chances of coming into contact with each other are minimized, and you get to restore your health. Wearing masks where possible. If you can't because you're jogging, you have a health condition, you can't. But then we've also talked about, aiming towards May 1st for golf courses with a lot of limitations. Car dealerships, real estate transactions by appointment only with a lot of limitations. Everyone wears a mask. When you go to an open house and only one person in the open house at one time, other than with the broker. And certain other businesses that can use remote customer interface. For example, music lessons. You could have one pupil in a room with the piano teacher, pupil at the piano, the teacher 6 feet away instructing the student on how to play the piano. And there's many different types of situations like that. But if we have low risk with modifications to address the risk factor, we open up earlier. And so these are examples of things we think we can open up earlier. Next slide. Then you have things that are more medium risk, but with modifications, perhaps they're less risky. So we talk about things like retail stores with measures in place for physical distancing. It could be by square footage, for every 1,000 square feet, a person is in the store. And of course, everyone is wearing a mask. And you're clicking people in and out to make sure you never are too crowded. Pet grooming, maybe by appointment, and your pet is there, but you're not there. You drop the pet off, it gets groomed, you come pick up your pet. And of course, office environments with measures in place for physical distancing is something that's being practiced here at the city and county of Honolulu and other places. And then outdoor, when we say malls, we mean outdoor, kind of shopping in a mall setting, but you're managing the number of people within the open air part of the mall. Okay, next slide. And then you have high risk with modifications. So there are things that are just high risk, more difficult to deal with, like restaurants with measures in place to reduce density and other things. And in fact, while this is a higher risk, for example, with restaurants, if they can put in place all the modification measures to reduce this high risk and make it a moderate risk or even a potentially low risk, they could actually be opened up earlier. And we're working hard to see what kind of things can we open up earlier, because we recognize that business is struggling. They're hanging on by their fingernails, and they can't hang on forever, and they can't even maybe hang on beyond a month or two more. And 70% of the business on Oahu and in the state of Hawaii is small business. They are the infrastructure for business here. And we want to make sure that that infrastructure is around after we come out of this pandemic. Beauty parlors and nail salons, with social distancing, you can mitigate that risk. Gyms and yoga, Pilates, those kind of things, you could mitigate the risk to some degree, but it's still high risk. And religious gatherings outside of the place of worship. So large gatherings, where it would be Easter Sunday service, sunrise service, those kind of things. Got to figure out how to manage that high risk. Next slide. So there are certain things that are just really hard. They're high risk and hard to modify. Bars, not so much. You could have people sitting at every other stool or every 3 stools, but after a couple drinks, they start forgetting how to practice good social distancing, and they get closer together, and you have problems. You know, you have the bartender exposed, so there's things that need to be addressed there. Running, you know, races like marathons or walkathons, where you have a lot of people gathered close together, is going to be more difficult to modify. Of course, concerts, conventions, and sporting events where you have a lot of people gathered together, sitting together in front and back of each other, it's really hard to do that. And of course, then unrestricted religious gatherings of a large number. So these are more difficult to modify. So again, as we do this, as we look at our type of business to open up, we are always looking at a weather report. We're always looking at the environment assessment every single day. And then we're looking at the risk factors, and if we can modify the risk, then we could look opening up sooner. And of course, as we do this, we're constantly testing aggressively to find out, are there cases out there? Are there any clusters? And what do we do if we find them? And that's why we need to be very vigorous on our contact tracing, and we need to be ready to help take those folks who are tested positive, if they can't be protected in their home, to be protected somewhere else, so that they do not pass the virus to others. And if we do all of this, we can continue to move forward in a steady manner and open up more and more business. And we watch as we go, and we watch how people are performing and whether there are any problems. So I can't stress enough how important it is to continue to test the whole way along and to look at our 4 factors that we're concerned with, our weather report. So again, as I mentioned, you know, we opened up our parks. We'll be opening them up on this Saturday, Botanical Gardens on May 1st. We're looking at golf courses with limitations, car dealerships with appointment-only basis and no test driving, automated car washes. Businesses can conduct operations on a more remote way, interface, and grave site visitations are things we are looking at trying to do as early as May 1st. But before we make the final decision, we're taking these recommendations to our medical advisory panel to get their input. And with the input they provide, perhaps we can add additional conditions to make sure that everyone is protected as we go forward. And then medium risk modifications, as I mentioned, we're looking at things like retail stores, pet grooming, and office type environments. High risk with modifications, again with requirements of social distancing. We're looking at, you know, remaining components of park facilities, perhaps barbershops, nail and hair salons, gyms with limitations. And then there's the high risk and difficult to apply modifications part, which we talked about, large sport venues and concerts and that kind of thing. So again, I want to repeat, this coming Saturday at 5 a.m., we'll be opening our parks for exercise only. That means walking, jogging, bike riding only. And we ask people, in the parking lots will be open so people can drive to the park and park. We're asking folks to wear face coverings, if at all possible, and practice good social distancing. This is not about gathering. And there's no use of the tennis courts or basketball courts or play equipment. And again, all of these things have to be done with good social distancing. We're not yet ready to open up Coco Head Shooting Range or Hanauma Bay or off-leash dog parks, but that could be on the horizon. So in conclusion, as we head up here, just to reemphasize always, it's about testing, and we want to do more testing. We want to be pragmatic about it. We want to be active about it. We want to have a targeted approach. And of course, when you find a positive, we're protecting them from spreading the virus to others, and we're protecting our kupuna and homeless community. And finally, physical distancing. With that, I'm going to open it up to questions on opening up our community again.